Mr. D, what are your plans now that you've reunited with Huyen and Maya? Will you build a house for Huyen, or let her and Maya live in that bamboo house forever?
You know, when I first stepped into that bamboo house where Huyen and Maya have been living, I was overwhelmed. It's small, worn by time and weather, but inside it holds a kind of warmth you can't buy or build with bricks. It's the warmth of love, of sacrifice, of a mother who gave up everything just to see her child smile. But no, I won't let them live like that forever. Not because that house isn't enough, but because they deserve more. Huyen deserves a home where she doesn't have to worry about the roof leaking when it rains. Maya deserves a place where she can dream freely, learn, grow, and be safe. So yes, I will build them a home brick by brick, with my own hands if I have to. Not just a house, but a place where every morning feels like a new beginning. A place where laughter replaces tears, and love replaces loneliness. That's my promise, not just to them, but to myself.
The warm family meal in the little bamboo house had just ended. Outside, the rain had passed, leaving behind the soft scent of wet soil, wild grass, and damp bamboo. The moon climbed high in the sky, round, full, and glowing, casting a silver shimmer across the yard where raindrops still clung to the leaves like tiny stars. Inside, Maya was fast asleep, curled up peacefully with Bibi by her side, her little breath rising and falling like a lullaby. Vi and Adam remained behind to tidy up, and on the porch, D and Huyen sat side by side on an old bamboo bench, weathered and creaky, but filled with memories. D reached for her hand. His fingers were rough, sun-worn, calloused from work and travel. Hers were soft, trembling just slightly as they intertwined. "It's been so long, Huyen," D whispered. "Do you remember the days by the banyan tree? We used to talk about the harvest, about dreams, under the same moon." Huyen smiled faintly, her eyes glistening in the moonlight. "The moon is beautiful tonight, D, but it's your presence that warms my heart. Without you, even the brightest moonlight feels cold." Then her smile faded. Her gaze drifted upward to the sky, far away and full of ache. She held his hand tighter, her voice suddenly shaking. "I'm sorry," she began. "Back then, I left without a word. I was terrified. My ex-husband, he hurt me, hurt Maya. I thought if I stayed, he would come and ruin your life too. I didn't want to drag you into that darkness." Her voice cracked. "I thought I wasn't good enough for you. I'm just a woman carrying scars, trying to raise my daughter with nothing but my hands and hope. You deserve someone whole, someone better." Her eyes dropped. Tears fell silently as she clutched her own sleeves, trying to hide her shame. D said nothing. Instead, he reached up and gently brushed her hair back, revealing the full sadness in her eyes. His fingers, rough and weathered, moved with the care of someone holding something fragile, something sacred. "Huyen," he said softly, "don't ever say that again." He guided her hand to his chest, pressing it against the steady beat of his heart. "I walked through scorching sun and pouring rain. I collapsed on roadsides with nothing in my pockets but a photo of you and Maya. There were days I thought I wouldn't make it, but I got up, because I saw your smile in my mind, heard Maya's laughter in my heart." He paused, his voice firm with love. "I didn't go through all that for you to tell me you're unworthy. You are the woman I have loved through every step, every breath. You are the one I long to protect. You are my light, my home. Huyen reached for his face, tracing the hollowed cheeks, the lines drawn by exhaustion and time. Her fingertips touched his calloused hands, each scar, each rough patch a testimony of devotion. You've suffered so much, she whispered, because of me. No, Dee said, wiping her tears with his sleeve. I endured it because of love, because of us, and because of Maya. I don't want to erase the past, I want to build a future where you never have to be afraid again. His eyes searched hers. I love you, Huyen. Not in words alone, but in every moment I breathe, every step I take. Huyen leaned into him, her head resting on his shoulder. Her tears, this time, were warm with relief. I never dared hope you'd still love me, she murmured. But with you here, I feel safe again. I feel whole. Dee smiled, his hand gently stroking her hair. And I feel alive again with you. And Maya, you are my whole world. As the night faded into early morning, the first golden rays slipped through the palm leaf roof. In the kitchen, the gentle crackle of fire lit the space, and the rich scent of rice porridge filled the air. Huyen stood by the stove, stirring carefully, her thoughts full of Maya's smile and Dee's warmth. She added a handful of chopped green onions, and the rising steam carried not just flavor but love. From behind her, Dee stepped in quietly, watching her with admiration. That porridge smells like home, he said. She turned, blushing. It's nothing fancy, just something to warm you both. He smiled and came closer, placing a hand gently on her shoulder. To me, it's perfect because it's made by you. I know you've carried everything alone for so long, but you're not alone anymore. Let me share this life with you for Maya's future, please. Her hand trembled as she finally accepted it, her eyes welling with tears. Thank you, she whispered. I still worry that you'll suffer because of us. Dee smiled, wiping her tears again. Huyen, I've already been through worse. Being with you, with Maya, that's not suffering. That's a blessing. They sat together, steam from the porridge curling in the air like a warm embrace. I'll work, Dee said, his eyes bright with quiet determination. So Maya can go to school, chase dreams, have a future better than ours. She deserves that chance, and I'll do everything I can to give it to her. Huyen reached out and held his hand. With you by our side, she said, I believe she can do anything, and I believe in us. A little voice called from inside. Mom, Uncle Dee, the porridge smells so good. Maya came running out, Bibi close behind, her face lit up with joy. Dee and Huyen looked at each other, love shining in their eyes. As they gathered around the table, eating the simple meal of porridge and dreams, one thing was clear. This was no longer just survival. It was a beginning, a quiet, powerful promise that real love heals, rebuilds, and makes anything possible. Closing narration. Under the full moon, Dee and Huyen found each other again, not as people untouched by pain, but as to hearts brave enough to begin again. And at sunrise, Dee made a vow not of riches, but of something far deeper, a father's love, a partner's devotion, and a promise to protect Maya's dreams. Let this story remind us, love doesn't need to be grand. Sometimes, it's porridge in the morning, a warm shoulder in the night, a hand reaching for yours in the dark. Later that morning, the sun rose higher above the hills, casting golden light through the bamboo slats of the little house. A gentle breeze stirred the hanging betel leaves and sent the scent of dew and earth drifting across the yard. Maya was now outside, skipping barefoot in the grass with Bibi chasing after her, their laughter ringing out like wind chimes in the morning air. Dee watched her from the porch, arms folded, a quiet smile on his face. Huyen came to stand beside him, drying her hands with a cloth, her eyes also fixed on her daughter. "She's grown stronger, hasn't she?" Dee said softly. "Yes," Huyen replied, her voice thoughtful, "but part of her strength comes from having you back." Dee turned to her gently. "And part of mine comes from knowing I can walk beside you." A quiet moment passed between them. Then Dee took a deep breath. "Huyen," he said, reaching into his shirt pocket. "I've been meaning to show you this." He pulled out a small, worn piece of paper creased and faded from time. It was a simple sketch, a bamboo house, a garden with flowers, and in the middle, a girl with pigtails holding a dog, waving. "I drew this during the hardest night on the road. I had no food. I was cold, alone. But this picture kept me going. It was how I imagined you and Maya living. I didn't know if it was real, but it was hope." Huyen covered her mouth, tears rising again. "That's our home. That's what we built." "Exactly that." Dee looked at her, his eyes glistening. "Then it means I found it. I found you." Later that day, Dee went into the village market to look for work. He wore an old hat borrowed from Adam and carried a small sack over his shoulder. Maya insisted on walking with him. Halfway down the path, her little hand tucked into his big one. "Uncle Dee," she asked innocently, "will you come home every day after work?" Dear kind-hearted listeners, thank you for walking with us through another chapter in the story of Dee, Huyen, and little Maya. In this quiet corner of the world, under moonlight and morning sun, a small family is rebuilding their life step by step with love, sacrifice, and hope. Their story may be simple, but it holds something powerful. The belief that no matter how broken the past, the future can still bloom. If today's story touched your heart, we invite you to share it with a comment, a heart, or a kind word to someone who needs it. Let us together spread the message that every child deserves a safe home, every mother deserves support, and every man who loves with sincerity deserves to be celebrated. Subscribe to stay close to this journey, and until we meet again in the next episode, may your days be filled with warmth, your nights with peace, and may you never stop believing in the quiet, enduring power of love. From all of us at Thank you and see you soon.